On March 10, 2026, he dropped a video from Hawaii that instantly grabbed attention. At 86 years old, he was out there training Matt Pacific's son, sparring with someone half his age like it was nothing. He looked straight into the camera, smiling like he knew something nobody else did, and said, "I don't age, I level up." The internet went wild. Comments poured in, fans hyping him up like he was untouchable, like time itself couldn't touch him. But just 9 days later, everything flipped in a way nobody saw coming. The Norris family released a statement that hit like a shockwave. "It is with heavy hearts that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris." No warning, no slow decline, no last goodbye. The same man the internet had joked about being immortal for years was suddenly gone. Just like that. At 86 years old, only days after that birthday video in the place he loved most, the energy online completely shifted. This wasn't one of those fake celebrity death rumors people scroll past. This was real. And the silence that followed felt heavy, different, like people didn't even know how to react. Because deep down, behind all those jokes about Chuck Norris never dying, there was a real belief there. Not literal, but the kind of belief you have in someone who just never quits, no matter what. So what really happened in those final days in Hawaii? What was building behind that last smile? And more importantly, who was he really? Not the legend, not the myth, but the man underneath it all. The kid who had every reason to give up long before the world ever knew his name. To understand that, you have to go all the way back. There were no bright lights at the start, no fame, no cameras, no hype. Just Ryan, Oklahoma. A small, quiet town where dreams faded as easily as dust settling on the roads. Born March 10, 1940, Carlos Ray Norris came into a world that wasn't exactly built for easy wins. His family was already falling apart before it ever had the chance to stand strong. His father, Ray Norris, came back from World War II carrying pain nobody could see. He struggled with alcohol, drifting in and out of their lives like a cold breeze that never stayed long but always left a mark. His mother, Wilma, was the complete opposite, strong, faithful, and unshakable. She held everything together, raising 3 boys mostly on her own, stretching every dollar until it almost snapped. She didn't have much, but she had belief, and she refused to let her family break. After the divorce, life kept moving, whether they were ready or not. Carlos and his brothers followed their mother from Kansas to California, each move reminding them that stability wasn't guaranteed. He became the quiet kid in the back of the class, barely noticed, mixed Irish and Cherokee, struggling with a stutter that made even simple conversations feel overwhelming. He later admitted it himself. He wasn't brave back then. He wasn't tough. He wasn't the guy people would one day fear on screen. He was just a kid who didn't want attention, who wanted to disappear before anyone could notice him. Then, 1958 changed everything. At just 18, he joined the United States Air Force. Not for glory, not for pride, but to escape. Escape poverty, escape confusion, escape the fear that his life would follow the same path as his father's. That decision took him all the way to Osan Air Base in South Korea, and that's where everything started to shift. In a completely different environment, under strict discipline, Carlos found something that would redefine him: martial arts. He started training in Tang Soo Do almost by chance, but once he stepped in, something clicked. It wasn't just fighting. It was control, focus, and presence. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel invisible. Martial arts gave him something powerful, not just strength, but identity. It told him without words, "You are enough." And he locked in completely, training harder and harder, pushing himself past every limit he thought he had. By the time he returned to the US in 1962 as an airman first class, he wasn't the same person anymore. The quiet, unsure kid was gone. In his place was someone starting to understand his own power. Back in California, while waiting on a police job that never came through, he made another move. He opened a small martial arts studio. No guarantees, no safety net, just belief in what he had built. At first it wasn't smooth. He entered competitions and lost. Fighters like Joe Louis and Alan Steen handed him real defeats. And yeah, he felt like he should have won. But he didn't quit. He kept showing up, kept training, kept sharpening his skills until there was no doubt left. Then, in 1967, everything paid off. Chuck Norris won the tournament of karate, defeating 7 straight opponents and finally claiming a title that once felt impossible. The kid who used to hide in the back of the classroom was now a champion. But even then, Bigger battles were waiting. Hollywood in the early 1970s wasn't checking for someone like Chuck Norris. No acting background, no connections, no easy path in. But everything changed because of one name, Bruce Lee. Through his martial arts school, Chuck met Bruce Lee, and that meeting wasn't just random. It was a turning point. Bruce had heard about him, wanted to see what he was about, and what started as curiosity turned into real respect. They trained together, pushed each other, and built a bond that went deeper than business. Then, in 1972, Bruce gave Chuck a shot that would change everything. In Way of the Dragon, Chuck Norris played Colt, Bruce Lee's toughest opponent. That final fight scene in the Coliseum? Legendary. Two fighters, no distractions, just pure tension before everything explodes. Chuck wasn't a star yet, but after that, everybody knew his face. Then came a loss that hit hard. In 1973, Bruce Lee died suddenly at just 32 years old. It shook Chuck deeply, even if he didn't talk about it much publicly. Years later, he kept it simple, saying Bruce was one of the most remarkable people he had ever known, and that the world lost something it could never replace. That loss didn't stop him. It pushed him forward. With encouragement from Steve McQueen, Chuck started taking acting seriously. The beginning wasn't pretty, though. Low-budget films, limited roles, critics calling him stiff and one-dimensional. But audiences saw something different. Movies like Breaker Breaker and Good Guys Wear Black started building his reputation. Then came The Octagon in 1980, and things kept climbing. By the mid-1980s, Chuck Norris was a full-on action star. Missing in Action, Code of Silence, Delta Force. These weren't trying to be fancy films. They were direct, bold, and unapologetic, and people loved it. He didn't have the flashy energy of Arnold Schwarzenegger or the dramatic presence of Sylvester Stallone. What he had was something else. Something quieter, more grounded, and honestly, more intense in a way that stuck with people long after the credits rolled. He felt real, and that's what made people stick with him. But it was television that took Chuck Norris from a known action star to something way bigger, a full cultural force. Walker, Texas Ranger hit screens in 1993 and ran strong for 8 seasons until 2001. Every week, Cordell Walker rode through Texas delivering justice with his fists, his faith, and a code that never bent. Critics didn't always respect the show, but that didn't matter. Millions of people watched it religiously. They believed in Walker, a man who stood for something solid, something unshakable, the kind of figure people hoped still existed somewhere out there. Then in 2010, things got real in a whole new way. The state of Texas officially made Chuck Norris a Texas Ranger, not a TV version, the real thing. The ceremony wasn't just for show either. It meant something. It closed a full circle, from a quiet kid in Oklahoma to representing one of the most iconic law enforcement groups in America. And just when it seemed like his legacy was already locked in, something wild happened in the early 2000s. The internet got involved and turned Chuck Norris into a myth no one could have predicted. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups, he pushes the earth down. Stuff like that spread everywhere. The jokes were ridiculous, over the top, and non-stop. But underneath all that humor was respect. It was the world basically saying this guy had become larger than life. And the best part? He didn't fight it. He leaned into it, laughed with it, and showed a side people didn't always expect. Behind the tough image was a man who didn't take himself too seriously, and that only made people respect him more. But while the legend kept growing, real life was quietly getting heavier. The world saw the kicks, the calm stare, the unshakable presence. What it didn't see was the personal weight stacking up behind the scenes, loss after loss, year after year. Chuck Norris had been with Diane Holacek since he was just 16 years old. They met in high school in Torrance, California. He was quiet, unsure, and she saw something in him anyway. They got married in 1958, still basically kids, and she stood by him for 3 decades. Through the struggle years, the martial arts grind, the Hollywood setbacks, all of it. But their relationship carried a painful truth that didn't go away. During his time in the military, Chuck had a relationship outside the marriage and became the father of a daughter, Dina. It wasn't something he talked about for a long time. When he finally addressed it in his 2024 memoir, he didn't sugarcoat it. Dina later found him in 1991, and he welcomed her into his life. But by then, the damage to his first marriage had already taken its toll. Chuck and Diane separated in 1988 and finalized their divorce in 1989, ending 30 years together. But what happened next wasn't typical. He didn't cut ties or walk away completely. Instead, they stayed close, maintaining a real friendship built on everything they had shared. In late 2025, Chuck even posted about her, calling her an incredible person, kind, intelligent, and full of life. It was clear she still mattered deeply to him, even after everything. Then, in December 2025, Diane passed away at 84 after living with dementia. Her son Mike said, "We are thankful she is no longer suffering. She was the greatest mom." Chuck shared a black and white photo from 1975, the two of them young with their kids. And honestly, it said more than words ever could. And that loss came not long after another one that hit just as hard. In December 2024, his mother, Wilma, passed away at 103 years old. She had been the backbone of everything. The woman who raised her sons through struggle, who never let go of her faith, who kept going no matter how tough life got. Chuck's tribute to her was simple but powerful. He described her as a woman of unwavering faith, a light in his life, someone whose love reflected something bigger than herself. She had lived a long life, but her passing still left a massive space behind. And even with all that, the deepest challenge in his life didn't come from loss alone. It came from watching someone he loved suffer in real time. In 2012, his second wife Gina went in for MRI scans. What followed changed everything. She began experiencing severe symptoms: shaking, numbness, intense burning pain, cognitive issues, even kidney problems. It didn't make sense at first, and nothing seemed to help. Chuck believed the cause was gadolinium, a contrast agent used during the scans. According to their claim, it had built up in her body and started damaging her system. For a man known for strength, this was something different. He wasn't fighting an opponent. He was standing in hospital rooms, watching someone he loved struggle day after day. At one point, he said, "She's dying right in front of me," and there was no acting in that moment. He went all in trying to help her. They searched for treatments across the US, then overseas, trying different therapies, including chelation and stem cell approaches. The cost got close to $2 million. That's how far he was willing to go. In 2017, they filed a $10 million lawsuit against the companies behind the contrast agents, aiming to bring attention to what they believed was happening to others too. The case was later dropped without a settlement, but the fight itself showed something deeper. This wasn't about money. It was about not accepting helplessness. The man people saw on screen as unstoppable was now fighting the most personal battle of his life. And it wasn't in front of cameras. Gina survived. She recovered. But that chapter left a mark that didn't fade. It changed him, gave him a different kind of perspective, a quieter strength, a sharper awareness of how fast life can shift. By the time 2026 arrived, Chuck Norris had already carried more than most people ever do. His mother was gone. Diane was gone. And the years of fighting for Gina had taken their toll too. You could see it, not just in his face, but in the way he moved, the way he carried himself. People close to him noticed he wasn't pretending time didn't matter anymore. He was 85 when Diane passed in 2025. He shared the photo, wrote his message, and then did what he had always done. He kept moving forward. He went to Hawaii. Kauai became his escape, his quiet place. Somewhere the pace slowed down, where the ocean and the light gave him space to breathe. Out there, early in the mornings, he would train on the beach. Not for show, not for cameras, just for himself. Out there, away from everything, the pressure of the legend finally eased up. No expectations, no spotlight, just him and the discipline he had lived by his entire life. For Chuck Norris, movement wasn't just exercise, it was belief. Training was like prayer. Every drop of sweat meant something deeper. As long as he could still move, still push himself, a core part of who he was stayed alive. Then March 10th, 2026 hit, and he turned 86 years old. And he didn't celebrate quietly either. He posted a video straight from Hawaii, sunlight behind him, training mat under his feet. No filters, no acting, just real life. There he was, the same kid from Oklahoma who once felt invisible, now sparring with someone half his age like it was nothing. His movements were sharp, controlled, and confident, just like they had been for decades. When he finished, he looked straight into the camera, breathing steady, with that calm grin that said everything without trying too hard. Then he said it, "I don't age, I level up." And just like that, the internet lit up again. Fans rushed in, flooding the comments with love, respect, and disbelief. The old jokes came back, but this time they felt different, more like admiration than humor. For a moment, it didn't feel like a meme. It felt real. Like maybe somehow he really was untouchable. Not a character, not an exaggeration, but the actual man. The one who had gone 86 years without backing down from life. Then 9 days later, everything changed. It came out of nowhere. A close friend who had spoken to him on Wednesday, March 18th, said Chuck sounded great. He was upbeat, training, joking around, completely himself. Nothing felt off. No warning signs, no hints that anything was about to happen. But either later that same day or early the next morning, March 19th, a sudden medical emergency hit while he was still on Kauai. It happened fast. So fast that even the people closest to him didn't see it coming. Details weren't shared publicly, and the family chose to keep that part private. But what they did share hit harder than anything else. On the morning of March 20th, 2026, the Norris family posted a statement that stopped people in their tracks. "It is with heavy hearts that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris yesterday morning." That line alone was enough. But they continued, saying he was surrounded by family and at peace. He was 86 years old. Just 10 days earlier, he had been training, moving, smiling, showing that same energy people had admired for years. And now, he was gone. The speed of it all didn't make sense to people. There was no long goodbye, no gradual fade. It was sudden, quiet, and final in a way that felt almost unreal. The statement described him simply, but powerfully. To the world, he was a martial artist, an actor, a symbol of strength. But to them, he was a husband, a father, a grandfather, a brother, the center of their family. And the words they used, faith, purpose, commitment, those weren't just nice phrases. That was his whole life. He built everything on those principles, not in flashy places, not for attention, but in real moments. On military bases in Korea, in small martial arts studios filled with sweat and determination, in hospital rooms holding his wife's hand and refusing to let go. Even in those quiet Hawaiian mornings, throwing punches into the air, not for show, but because stopping was never an option. And that's the part that hit people the hardest. The world had spent years joking that Chuck Norris couldn't die. But now nobody was laughing, because this wasn't a character. This was a real man, and he was gone. After the news broke, tributes came from everywhere. Leaders, public figures, everyday people. Soldiers who had watched Walker, Texas Ranger on small screens far from home. Fans who grew up believing, even just a little, that he was different. Martial artists who started training because of him. Veterans who felt represented by him. Regular people who saw his story and believed they could push through their own struggles. Even the internet changed its tone. The same place that built him into a legend paused the jokes and showed real respect. Because those memes were never just jokes. They came from something real. From the man behind them. The quiet kid with a stutter. The one who grew up without stability. The man who faced personal loss, who stood by his family, who kept going no matter what life threw at him. He didn't pretend to be perfect either. He admitted his mistakes openly. He carried his scars without hiding them. But through every stage of his life, from Oklahoma dust to Korean training grounds, from standing beside Bruce Lee to sitting in hospital rooms with Gina, from movie sets to quiet beaches in Hawaii, he stayed consistent. He showed that what really defines someone isn't whether they fall, it's what they do after. He made it through poverty, through rejection, through losses that would have broken most people. And in the end, his story didn't close in chaos or struggle. It ended peacefully, surrounded by family, on an island filled with light.